This is deuce to seven triple draw lowball. The nuts is 7-5-4-3-2. You don't want straights and you don't want flushes. So I pick up well a three. I mean I guess it's heads up so I can keep the nine, but you want to tend to be drawing to eight lows and seven lows. So he limps and or they limp and I check. I discard four and I pick up three deuces, which you don't want trips, but I decided to lead out here, and I actually expect to get raised a decent amount of time. I could just check call here, but I kind of want to represent that I drew something that is kind of nutted and I like because I'm gonna eventually snow with this hand, which is when you compile a bunch of nutted cards and turn your hand into a bluff. For example, three deuces. So three deuces. Deuce is the probably the most important card in this game to contain in your hand, followed by a seven and a three. So when I have three of them, it means it's less likely they have one, which means they can't have, or it's less likely they have the other one and a nutted type hand. So I'm going to be able to represent a very strong hand that they're not going to um, want to challenge eventually. Um, and you're not going to get it through all the time, but you're going to get it through a lot of time. So I lead out, and they min raise me, and I decide to call. So I chuck the ace, um, make it look like, you know, I'm drawing one, and I mean I could draw two. At this point, I'm setting up a bluff, so I would like to make it look like I have four good cards here, and I just need one more. So I discard one, and I pick up an eight, which is a great card to get because it's one less card they can have to have a strong hand. Um, so they bet out $1.50, and I decide to raise big, and they indeed don't want to continue. So that again is that's called snowing. Um, so pick up the pot there with a bluff. Uh, this 7-6-4-3-2. This is the second best hand possible. Doesn't look like much happened this hand. Let me see. Yeah, added to a seven, and yeah, no, so nothing much happened. Okay, so this is the sixth best hand, I believe. Uh, so I pick up deuce eight, and I min raise. They call, they discard two. I discard three. Pick up a. Let's see. Okay, so 8-6-4-3-2. They bet out $1. We're definitely going to be raising here. They call. They pat. We pat. So if they had better, so if they had an 8-5-4-3-2, or one of the 4-7 lows, they're likely going to raise there and try to get money in or get me to commit more money um, versus trapping. And I have experience with this player, so but just in general, that's how people are gonna play the hand. So I bet out big here, and they call. So they have an 8-6-5-4-3, a couple hands behind mine, um, and we pick up a nice $28 pot there. Look like much happened here. All right, pick up a 6-5 deuce. Uh, draw two, pick up an eight. Lead out. They call. We draw one, pick up another eight. They draw one. They bet out. So we hit our best card and lead out right into them. They call, and they had the 8-7-4-3-2 is the best 8-7 you can get. So after this, you go into the 8-6s, and once you get through the 8-6s, you go into the sevens. So this is a strong hand, but he has to think: am I leading out with an 8-7 that's worse than this versus check calling? And I don't think he thought that through. I think I'm well. Yeah, I guess I'm leading out. My sizing might have been a little bit different for pot control, so I didn't have to face a big bet. But I don't think they're going to know that quite yet. We played a decent amount, but not enough that um, they would have the particular things I do down yet. And I'm kind of balanced and with different bluffs and value bets in different spots. But anyway, let's see here. Uh, so he got down to, oh yeah, $3, and uh, you kind of need your opponent to reload at this point. It's not really worth playing for 6 blinds. So this player showed up, a little bit more money, not much. So this is an interesting hand. Uh, so I have 8-5-3, draw 2, pick up queen 10, and I could keep the 10 here and draw to a 10 low, or chuck these two. Kind of depends, but I bet out, and they call. So I decided to keep the 10, and I picked up an 8, which paired my 8, which isn't good. But so I lead out big here, and they call. So I padded. I drew an 8, which blocks them from, you know, it's a blocker to some cards, and it's heads up, and also, uh, so if I chuck the 8 and draw a 1, it's gonna be, and when I bet out, it's gonna be on the river. It's gonna be, or not river, on the last draw. It's gonna be more likely when I'm betting that I'm bluffing a lot more of the time. But if I pat, they don't have the information because I haven't played this person before. And even if I did, when I pat, it's less likely they're not going to think that I'm patting with just a bunch of junk to bluff. So I keep the 8 and pretend here I'm pretending that I have a made hand when I don't. So they draw. Now, if I see them pat, I can just check and give up, or I can bet huge to try to make it look like I'm not scared that they patted and that I have a monster hand that wants called. Uh, so you have a lot of different options still. So they drew 1, and I bet huge. So unless they have really like an 8-7-4-3-2, that's the bare minimum that's probably going to want to call this. Bet. I would say you have to get into the 8-6s, because unless I'm bluffing, this is going to be my value range for here is going to be 8-7-4-3-2 plus. Um, so, but they probably just completely whiffed anyway, um, and yeah, so picked up that pot with a bluff. This is the second best hand again. So they opened $1. Now I should be 3-betting 7-3 deuce. I mean, you're not gonna get much better than that. And this is the best 3-card starting hand you can get. And heads up, it's very strong. Full ring, it's very strong. 7-3-2. So I should be 3-betting this. I think maybe I didn't at the time because he's so short, and I didn't feel like getting stacks in when I wanted to have more control post flop and as hands developed to whittle him down. I think if he was sitting with 50, I'm 3-betting this probably almost always. But anyway, so just bink the second nuts, draw 2, drew 2, get 4-6. They lead out 2/3 pot, and I'm pretty sure I'm getting paid off here, but unfortunately they were either just bluffing or just had like some crappy 9 that just couldn't compete up against, or they weren't drawing to the nuts rather. They probably had a decent hand or were bluffing, but a hand that wasn't drawing to the nuts, so they chucked it. So which is unfortunate, but I pick up a pot there. Let's see here. Here's the big one. So 8-5-4. I open. They draw 3. I draw 2. I bet about pot. They make a huge raise. So I don't have enough information to do anything but call here, and I have position, which is great. So they discard 1, and I discard 1, and I hit my second best card. Best card would have been a deuce, but this is pretty much just as good almost. So he bets huge here. So this a lot of the time is this is going to be applying max pressure. I'm going to be in a real bad spot here to continue if I bricked here, because now I got to call a pot size bet with, and he's only got 10 behind, and I got to draw, and I could be drawing. For example, if I didn't get my six and I got a king here, well, I got to call $15, and I got to hit to make a hand that could potentially even compete with whatever they got. I really need the seven. I might not even want 875 or an 87543 might not even be good. So I might need the deuce or the six. Well, they probably have a deuce in their hand, so that's one less deuce available to me. So there's three deuces and maybe four sixes left. So let's just say there's seven outs. So I have a roughly 14% chance to make a hand, and I have to call, getting 2-1 on my money. It's not a good spot to be in. So this is a great spot to apply max pressure on their part. Uh, whether if that's indeed what they're doing, um, or they're value betting. I think if they were value betting, they would actually size down. But either way, I made my hand, and at this point, you're just going with it because odds are they didn't hit anyway. So uh, I shove, and they call, and now I get to see what they were doing. So they ended up drawing. So they were semi bluffing and trying to apply max pressure. So we're in great shape here, and I'll show you how great of shape here in a moment. Uh, they draw, and it looks like they had 5-4-3-2 and hit a nine. I don't think they would be playing a 9-2-3-4 this way and drawing to a nine. I think they were at least drawing to the nuts. But you don't really want to be taking this type of aggressive line with a hand where you could get a card. So if they get a six instead of a nine, they're gonna have a straight. Now you're losing to everything because you have a straight. You don't want straights in this game, even though you have five low cards. So it's not really ideal the way they kind of played this hand. But again, 2-3-4-5 is fine. It's a good card. So they needed an 8 or a 7 here to make a hand. 9 would have been their third best card they could have got. So if they need an 8 and a 7, well, I have an 8. There's only 3 eights left. There's 4 sevens. So again, that's 7 cards, 14%. So when I see them draw 1, I can smile because I know they're roughly 14% to beat me, so, which is it's poker. It is gambling in the end. It's gambling with edge, but that's about as good as you can get in these spots. And uh, so they get the 9. They don't get one of the cards. They're gonna help them beat me, and we pick up a $65 pot. And I think there's one more interesting hand. I think after this they kind of gave up. Okay, this hand. So um, so this heads up is actually a pretty good hand. It's you're not gonna draw to the nuts. Although you can if you chuck the 9, but I think um, it's reasonable to keep the 9 in the spot. Heads up. Um, I mean, 3-6-5 alone is not that great. You really need to draw a deuce, and even if you get a deuce, like I said, the other hand, a 4 gives you a straight, so you need an 8 or a 7. It's not a very playable hand. If you keep the 9, the 4 is good, the 7's good, the deuce is good. So yeah, you probably want to keep the 9, especially in heads up. So he draws 2, I draw 1. And because I draw 1, he drew 2. Even though I hit a 9, I decide to apply pressure here, try to pick up the pot. They continue with the hand though. They draw 2 and I draw 1. So they're drawing 2 again. The pot's bigger. I'm going to be able to make a bigger bet here. I paired my hand, so my hand is just trash now. Although I'm still going to be ahead of whatever range of hands they have because you're just 4 favored to miss in the spot. So I decide to bet big about pot. And the beautiful thing here is I have position. So what I'm doing here, whether I decide to draw or not, is going to be based off of sometimes, but what they do. And also, I don't think they're going to draw 2 a lot of times here. But this time, I decided that instead of drawing to a 9 and and then having to bluff or get led into and be in a weird spot. I wanted to maintain that I hit a very strong hand. So instead of trying to make it some junk 9 low, I decided to just pat this, and I'm gonna turn this into a bluff. And 5 is a good card to keep for as a blocker. And so they check, and I bet out $11. So again, they're going to have a very strong hand here to call. If they have a 9 low, 10 low, they're not going to call. Even some of the bad 8-7s, they might not want to call because I have to be bluffing for them to win. So this is going to get through a lot of time. It's a good spot for me to bluff, and it gets through. And at this point, I think they decided to quit me after that. They just after this hand I was pounding him a bit, so he just um, decided to find a different game. Um, but yeah, this is a little deuce to 7 triple draw gameplay. One of my great game. Just love this game. That's a little bit of the insight of how to play deuce to 7 triple draw low ball.